Hi everybody, it's good to see yous. I hope yous are well. Won't you pull you up a chair and set a spell while I share the stories how rock salt and a simple iron skillet could iron out an Appalachian man. This first story is about Miss Vinnie. Miss Vinnie was a local chicken woman. If you needed eggs or a good old bacon hen, Miss Vinnie had what you needed. Well, Miss Vinnie decided to invite her neighbor and her husband over for dinner the next day. She would fix them up one of her famous hens, and boy would it be so good. Well, she went out to the hen house where she had a big fat baking size hen she'd been feeding out for a good month. But to her amaze, that old hen was gone. Someone broke in and took her, and boy was Vinnie mad. She had to call her neighbor and reschedule the dinner for the next month while she fed out another hen. A few weeks later, it was ready to eat. She went to the neighbor again, rescheduled the dinner again. She went out to get that old hen ready, but it was not there again. Someone broke in and stole her hen the night before. She got so mad and frustrated, she went to the town's elder, told him what was going on, and asked him how to stop him from doing it a third time. Well, he said, Miss Vinnie, get out that old shotgun of your daddy's, cut open one of the shells, pour the shot out, put some rock salt in place of it, then hide and wait. Soon, they'll get in trying to get the next hen, then let them have it. That old rock salt won't kill them, but they will never touch your hens again. So, a few weeks later, she had another one fed out and rescheduled that dinner. And the night before, she hid out and under a blanket amongst the bales of hay. Just as she figured, the no-good chicken thief struck again. They bent over right in front of her to pick up the chicken. Then she let them have it with both barrels of a 12-gauge shotgun, loaded with that old rock salt. Well, she blew the seat of their pants out, and it must have scared them so bad, they ran clean through the side of the hen house. Their pants was a-smoking, and they ran off yelling in pain across the field. Well, Miss Vinnie got up the next morning, got that old hen ready, and cooked a feast fit for a king. Well, when her neighbor come over, she was alone. Miss Vinnie asked, "Where's your husband?" She said, "In bed healing from a rock salt wound into his rear end." She said, "I told him to stop stealing them old hens or he would pay, and he didn't listen." Well, needless to say, the man never stole another hen again. Well, This next story is from my own family. My great-grandfather was a melon farmer. He had fields and fields of melons. The biggest, sweetest, tastiest watermelons ever seen in the mountains of Alabama. Folks would come from all over to get them a melon. But see, the local teens thought it would be so fun to just sneak and steal one for themselves. But eventually, it got to the point where they would steal more and more to where he couldn't sell any more for them all being stolen. So he thought he would teach them a lesson. So he parked his old wagon out in the field and left it for a few days. And one night, he slipped under a cover of darkness and hid inside that wagon with his old 12-gauge shotgun and rock salt shells. Sure enough, here they come. A group of teens come walking into the field. They went over to the biggest watermelon, bent over to pick it up. He pulled the trigger, and them boys yelled out and run for the hills, scooting across the ground, yelling, "It burns, it burns." The next day, my grandpa went to visit his daughter and grandson, but the boy wasn't running around. He wasn't even out in the yard. He was in bed. He walked in and asked his daughter, "Well, where's your son at?" And she said, "Well, he's up there in bed healing up from one of them old rock salt shells somebody got a hold to him last night in a watermelon patch." Well, my great-grandpa walked up there and said, "What are you thinking stealing my melons?" Well, Pa, he was just having fun, he thought. He said, "It ain't much fun now, is it?" Needless to say, that boy never did steal another melon. And this final story, it's about my granddad. Well, my granddaddy, boy, he loved boxing. He would watch a match till it was over. And he would get so into it, he would jump and yell at the TV. And boy, he'd be mad as fire if something happened that he didn't like. You could hear him all over the neighborhood. Well, Grandma would come in, tell him, "Settle down, old man, or else." Well, Grandpa got to watching a boxing match. Boy, they was going at it left and right. And one of them sunk a left hook on the other, and they went down. Well, my grandpa just so happened to be holding my daddy in his lap at the time while Grandma cooked. But when he jumped up, he must have forgot that my daddy was in his lap. Well, my daddy went rolling in the floor. Well, that upset my daddy because he got dropped and he started crying. Well, my grandma said, "I told you for the last time to settle down and pay attention to what you're doing." Well, Grandpa said, okay, I will. I'll settle down. Well, he sat down and picked my daddy up and sat back down in that chair and started watching another match. Well, the next thing you know, that person sunk a left hook on somebody else, knocked the other guy out cold. Grandpa jumped up. My daddy got knocked in the floor again. Well, this time, Grandma didn't say nary a word. All the other kids know is they was outside playing and heard Grandpa yelling at the TV like he always does, preceded by a loud ping. Well, they walked in the house because they thought Grandma had dropped a pan or something on the floor and might have hurt herself. They come running in. When they got to the living room, Grandma was walking back into the kitchen with a smile on her face and a skillet in her hand, and looked on the ground in front of the recliner, and there Grandpa was laid out on the floor. Apparently, he didn't listen this last time when she said to calm down. So she learned him a lesson with that old iron skillet. So he'd better be calming down and not hurting the kids whenever he's watching his wrestling. So, needless to say, Grandpa never did hold one of them in his lap when he was watching that wrestling again. Well, folks, I hope you enjoyed these little stories. But who knew that a simple rock salt and an iron skillet could fix a troublesome old man? I appreciate you listening. I love you to pieces, and we'll see you next time.